Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And the PFL World Tournament is back, and as always, here on the Ground and Pound podcast, we got a full card breakdown, starting off in the early prelims, heading to the main event. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And we're going to kick things off in the early prelims. We got the middleweights, the light heavyweights, and the heavyweights this week. And kicking things off, we have a catchweight bout. We have JP St. Louis taking on Tyler Ray. I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this first matchup?
I ended up going with St. Louis, actually. I don't think he's the best striker. Lands soft looking strikes, kind of touches, doesn't really follow through with the power. Um, Looks to want to take the fight to the mat. Looks strong, but not a very powerful, imposing striker. You know what I mean? He's just going to beat you with a lot of position and takedowns. And um, he has some solid submission grappling, lacks a bit of wrestling in that department. So getting it to the ground, I don't necessarily know how that's going to look. But uh, when he fought Tyler Ray the first time, he was able to catch him with the guillotine. And Tyler Ray is kind of the same fighter. He always wants to take this one to the ground as well, but he doesn't really have a means to get there. But what he does do is he's the aggressor coming forward. And I think that's actually what's going to get him taken to the ground is as he maybe lands a jab, maybe a 1-2, he's going to get a little overconfident, come in. And I think that's where St. Louis is going to take him down from there and then work positions and maybe a little ground and pound, soften him up. But I did notice I was telling you earlier that which is surprising uh on his record, he has a win against John Doomsday Howard, former UFC 170 pounder. And Dooms is a tough guy, he's a talented guy, he's well past his prime, but just to have a name like that on there, he's still powerful, he's still tough. And I was just kind of surprised, but I I think that he likes to implement the same game plan as St. Louis, and I just think St. Louis best him on the ground, so I ended up going with him.
Yeah, two for St. Louis here. St. Louis training out of Fusion XL with the likes of Terrence McKinney, Mike Davis, Therese Finney, Phil Rowe. Some good high level training partners that he's got. But I will say, when you look through that 11-5 record, there's a very low level of competition, not necessarily the highest level of guys he's competing against. And he will jump guillotine, which I'm not a big fan of. And when you look at some of his takedowns for St. Louis, he has decent explosive takedowns. When he gets on top, he's not necessarily all that looking to do damage or necessarily go for submissions unless he gets some sort of opportunistic submission. And when he does get on top, like I said, he will roll for guillotines, and he is obsessed with doing so, which obviously gives up position, which I'm a little bit concerned about. When you talk about St. Louis's striking, he likes to throw the overhand, which obviously sets up some of his more explosive double legs. He'll go sort of jab, jab, right hand. He will blast calf kicks to from the outside. He'll blast body kicks as well. He is fairly heavy-handed, but I do think he is a little bit undersized here. Tyler Ray is actually fought up as high as 205. Interesting that this fight is at 175. They've got a little catch weight going on. I don't know what that's about, but only time will tell when we see them both stand next to each other at the weigh-ins. But Tyler Ray trains out of Killcliff. Obviously, again, another good gym with high-level training partners. He has good timing on his shots as well. When he looks to throw his strikes, it's not necessarily that he's throwing with a ton of power. He just catches guys coming in. I think he's a little bit better at reading his opponent than what St. Louis is. St. Louis really just looking to get on top and kind of ride out positions, whereas Ray, he will look for takedowns. He will mix them in, but I think he's a little bit more comfortable on the feet. Seems very, very measured at distance as well. Has nice level changes, and I do think that both guys are opportunistic submission grapplers, but I'm going to go with St. Louis here. I do think that he's probably the faster, more explosive guy, especially early. I do think that Ray, might be tough to take down in the early stages just due to the size discrepancy, but I'm just going to go with St. Louis here to get it done. Ride out some top control, maybe wear down a guy like Ray, who's obviously fought as high as 205, like I said, and hopefully he can do that, not pull guillotine and ride out some rounds in top position. And next up, we have Josh Silveira taking on Murad Ramazanov. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Josh Silveira in this. I think the pressure, striking, the clinch, the takedowns will be enough to keep Ramazan, who is a good wrestler. He's a decent striker. He's not bad. He does suffer from low volume output when he's striking. He looks uncomfortable on the feet, but I think just the pressure and the relentless pursuit of the clinch or the takedown and fighting in that short range from Silveira, I think will probably get it done. Silveira's probably just going to bully him around in the ring. I don't see a way where if Ramazanov gets him down that Silveira can't get back up and can't get to a better position, can't get to his feet. So I'm going to take Silveira in this one.
Yeah, I was interested to see who you picked in this one, and this is probably going to be the first time I think I'm ever picking Josh Silveira. I've never been high on the guy. I've never thought that he's that good, but I think this is a good stylistic matchup for him. I'm right there with you with your breakdown there of Murad. Murad, to me, is very undersized for 185. He's obviously fought at 170 before. 3-fight losing streak currently as well, losing to Aaron Jeffries and I forgot the Musayev previously back-to-back. Obviously a guy that's training at the DAG fight team, and he does exactly what the name suggests. He comes in, he grapples, he looks for that takedown, and I just don't think that he's, like Carlos said, he's going to be able to get those takedowns on Josh Silveira. I think if he does, then I think Silveira's going to get right back up. It's going to wear down the gas tank of Murad, and I think that Silveira is going to take over, and we've seen, obviously, Josh Silveira drop down from 205 to 185. He had a very competitive back and forth fight against Mike Shipman previously, and he looked good in that fight, was able to get the victory. And, even though Josh Silveira, when he fought against Fabian Edwards, there's no shame in losing to a guy like Fabian Edwards. He is fighting in the final here. I do think that Fabian Edwards has got all the skills to be able to beat a guy like Silveira, but I think that the wrestling of Silveira is, I don't want to say underrated, but I do think that it's good enough here to keep this one on the feet. I think he's going to have the size advantage as well. He does have good top pressure. If he does get into dominant positions, he will look to finish. And we know that he can go a hard 3 rounds as well at this weight class. So I just think that I trust Silveira's cardio a little bit more than what I've seen from Murad, who always seems to slow down even though he is undersized, and I just don't see him being able to get the takedowns. When it comes to the striking, I like Silveira a little bit more as well, so give me Josh Silveira to get it done. But I will say I don't think I've ever picked Josh Silveira in a fight before. Today might be or this week might be the day that he proves me wrong, and I'm on the wrong side of it again. And next up, we have Carl Williams taking on Sergey Bilostenniy, and I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. I'm excited for this one. Who you got in this one?
So I ended up taking Sergey Bilostenniy. Williams is a little slow. He's flat-footed. He's got sloppy technique in his stand-up, but even when he's wrestling, he still does have like pretty sloppy technique on his takedowns and everything as well. I just don't. I don't see him being able to hold down Bilostenniy. And on the feet, he's very sharp. He's light on his feet. I think that'll also give Williams problems when trying to get him in a clinch, trying to get takedown. I just think Bilostenniy is a little bit more explosive. He can grapple. He's got different ways he's looking to finish fights. If the submission's there, he's going to take it. If the strikes are there and he's leading in the exchanges, he's going to keep going with that. I just feel his movement is going to be a big problem for Williams because Williams just likes to kind of slow plotting coming forward like most heavyweights. And yeah, I'm going with him, Bilostenniy.
Yeah, I flip-flopped on this one a few times. I'm a big fan of Sergey Bilostenniy. I really like the striking, very light on his feet. He loves to throw spinning attacks. I think that might be a bad idea in this fight against Carl Williams, who obviously we know likes to come in and wrestle. There's no secret on the channel here that I'm not a big fan of guys that throw spinning attacks, especially when you've got a guy that looks to wrestle. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Bilostenniy. The way that he strikes, the way that he fought against Moldavsky in his previous fight as well. I think he got absolutely screwed on the judges' scorecards there. I thought that he beat Moldavsky, a very, very close competitive fight. However, I think that he's very, very talented. And when you look at his ground game as well, he's shown in the past that, when guys do try to take him down, he's got a very nice heel hook that he'll roll for a leg. And he's got a few submissions on his record due to that as well. And when you look at Carl Williams, we know exactly what he wants to do. He wants to come in, he wants to wrestle. The striking is very basic, fights behind a jab and a 1-2. But you know what he wants to do? He wants to come in and he wants to sniff your crotch. And I'm actually going to pick the crotch sniffer. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I have a feeling that what's going to happen here is Carl Williams is going to kind of not necessarily get beaten up on the feet. He's going to get his calf chewed up a little bit. Bilostenny's going to throw a few strikes. And I think that Bilostenny's going to spin. He's going to get that takedown timed. Carl Williams is going to come in, and time that takedown. But he's going to be able to get Bilostenny down, and I don't think that he's going to be able to pull off that miraculous heel hook that he's done in the past. And I think he can kind of wear down on Bilostenny, wear on the gas tank with the wrestling here. And we know that Carl Williams is going to come in and stick to that game plan. And I do think here that, to me, this is kind of 50-50. It just depends on wherever the fight takes place. And I do think as well, Carl Williams was kind of a little bit unlucky not to beat Popov in his previous fight. I thought that we had Popov in our best bets. And I was sitting there kind of, praying and hoping that, the judges gave the scorecards to Popov in that fight. I think Carl Williams did enough in that fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he holds Sergey Bilostenny here down on the ground or up against a fence and ultimately wins this one. But I'm going to go with Carl Williams here to get in the win column, and I don't love it, though, I got to say. I do think that there's a chance that he might get knocked out, but I'm going to go with Carl Williams to get it done. And next up, we have Rasul Magomedov taking on Gulam Viana. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
Going with Rasul Magomedov. Rasul's, from what I see, he's light on his feet, decent striking, uses good foot movement defensively, where he'll at least control the distance, change angles on his way out. He's good in the clinch for takedowns. After takedowns, he's got pretty good ground control, and he's got some decent ground and pound as well. So I think he can get it done. I didn't do much on a review for Viana because after you see the fact that Magomedov has a very extensive background amateur-wise in the international scene, it's like I don't feel that Viana's got anything, at least I didn't see anything that he has that's going to pose an issue from Magomedov. So I'm going with him.
Yeah, two for Magomedov here for me. When you talk about the credentials of Magomedov, obviously, like Carlos said, a very high-level wrestler and also the two-time IMMAF champion, which is the amateur organization for MMA. Won that back in 2021 and 2023. He's also a 2021 World Sambo champion. He's also the World Cup Wrestling champion back in 2019. The guy's pretty impressive. When you watch some of his fights as well, he fought against a 6'6" guy that he looked completely outsized against. He took that guy down with no problem. Nice double legs, nice single legs. He can, get a body lock, trip takedown. Great top pressure when he gets there. And one of the things I really like about him as well is that his feints are very, very good. So he'll constantly feint at you on the feet, gets people to bite, level change, gets you down. Once he gets you down because of his high-level grappling, he's going to keep you there. When you talk about Viana, first of all, that's a girl's last name. Let's just be honest, guys. He trains with Glover Teixeira's gym. When you see him fight, he is a very, very big opponent. Obviously, standing at 6'4" to 5'10" here. But just like I said earlier, Magomedov has fought even bigger opponents and taken them down with no problem. Maybe Glover's got some secret sauce on the ground here for Viana. He is kind of one of these guys that he's a jack of all trades, master of none. He doesn't necessarily look all that impressive. He tends to throw big looping hooks. Does have takedowns, but he's not going to be able to use them here against Magomedov. He's really just got the height and the reach advantage here. So give me Magomedov to get the wrestling going, hold down a 39-year-old Viana who has a girl's last name. And next up, you know that the word one-way traffic is coming in this one. We've got Impa Kasanganay taking on Andrew Sanchez. Carlos, who's going to win this one?
Are you not worried about Sanchez landing the big overhand right that puts out Kasanganay? Because I'm not saying it's possible, but Kasanganay does have sometimes where he's not looking as sharp or as focused. I don't think he's going to have a problem. I think he can come in at 50% here and still get it done against Sanchez. Sanchez is wild. He's sloppy in his striking. His grappling is decent. Not impressive. Actually, nothing impressive really about him, I don't think. Kasanganay, he's an athlete. He's strong, powerful, good takedown defense. And like I said, The only thing that gets me is sometimes he loses focus. But against Sanchez, I don't think there's anything that he could do to capitalize on a mistake that Kasanganay is making. And that reason I'm taking Impa.
Yeah, I mean, do I really need to break this one down, guys? Anybody that's seen either of these two guys fight before, Andrew Sanchez, 6 of his 8 losses coming via knockout. He's chinny. The PFL knows what they're doing here. They're getting Impa Kasanganay back in the win column after that loss to Fabian Edwards. And to me, when you look at Impa Kasanganay, obviously a guy who's well-rounded, bounced between 205 and 185. Obviously, this fight taking place at middleweight. Wherever this fight goes, Impa should be able to get it done. I think he gets the job done early in round 1. If he wants to take him down and sub him, he can. If he wants to beat him up on the feet and toy with him, he can. What are we doing here? This just feels like a fight that's going to, kick things off for the main card, where we're just going to see an Impa Kasanganay victory here early in round 1. That's all I see it to be. Take your pick, submission, knockout, whatever it is. A strong breeze might knock Andrew Sanchez down at this point. Give me Impa Kasanganay, confident pick to get it done.
Yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with a few layups. You know what I mean? Impa needs a layup. Give it to him.
Yeah, hey man, I do like Impa Kasanganay, and this fight should be a good one if depending on how Romanov's cardio holds up. But we've got Alexander Romanov taking on Oleg Popov, the battle of the Ovs. Carlos, who's getting it done?
It's tough because Romanov is very strong in the first round, and sometimes just from the size of him, the weight, just bearing down on you in the first round, it could take a little toll on you, and maybe in the second round, he'll just wear on you a little bit more. But I feel that Oleg, he can move, but he doesn't move a lot. Like I think if he has to move a lot in the first round and the second, he's definitely not able to do that as much. I just feel that he moves light enough on his feet at times to give Romanov some problems. I think that in the first round, what Popov should be doing is trying to land the jab, maybe a 1-2, throw I don't know. I would say you could throw some leg kicks, but that gives Romanov a chance to at least try to come in and take you down or catch your leg. But I would say at least go to the body with these long strikes, try to keep him from being able to grab you, and go to work in the second round and then go to work in the third if it gets to that. Because if you attack the body of Romanov in the first round while he's trying to grab you, while he's trying to put his weight on you, you're forcing him to use more energy. He's just going to get tired. Even if you let him take you down for the first round and implement his game plan, he's going to be tired in the second round. So if I was Oleg, I would kind of just bide my time, look to counter, look to keep him off, and fight the takedowns, and then round 2 come and put in some work. So I'm going to take Popov in this. I don't see Romanov as a big puncher. He does hit heavy, but he doesn't have the means to accurately land it. He just kind of wings some hooks, and if it lands, it lands. So I'm taking Popov.
Yeah, and as I always say, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast as we kick off the main card here, hit that like and subscribe button. If whether you're enjoying the content or not, I think Alexander Romanov's titties are definitely worth a like and subscribe, if anything. But 2 for Popov here. I'm right there with you. I think that Alexander Romanov, there's no secret, he's very dangerous in the first round. Absolutely comes out aggressive, loves to bully his opponents, body lock, takedowns, get on top, beat you up. You do not want a guy the size of Romanov on top of you, looking to do damage or looking to choke you out. I just don't think that he's going to be able to grab a hold of Popov here, get him down successfully early in round 1 and kind of just run through him. We've seen with Popov now, 23 fights into his career. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He wants to be able to get you to the ground, get on dominant position, beat you up on the ground, and he's got good cardio. Popov does a good job of pushing a pace, and I definitely think out of the 2, I like Popov striking much more, which is why I feel fairly confident in him this week. When you look at Popov's stand-up, he does a good job of bouncing in and out. He's light on his feet. He does a good job of stepping into the pocket and landing with the right hand, disguised behind the jab. When you look at Romanov, I think Carlos's breakdown was pretty much spot on with his striking, that he'll throw them looping hooks. He'll look to try and land something big. I think a lot of the time that's really just to close the distance. He's not actually something that he looks to land, with accuracy. He's really just looking to get into the clinch and get his takedowns going. I just think that wherever this fight plays out, Popov's going to have the advantage. If it's on the feet, he's going to be the quicker, more athletic striker who's more technical, can set up his shots. If it ends up playing out in the wrestling, I think that Popov's going to be able to defend those takedowns, maybe even reverse positions at times. And we already know that Popov's got the better cardio. So give me Popov here. Feel fairly confident in him to get it done. And we know that Romanov's dangerous in the first round, but if it goes outside the first, I think it's all Popov. And next up, we have Lazard Dayron taking on Bryce Meredith. What a weird last name as well. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Lazaro Dayron, which is a tough pick for me. This fight is because I feel like it's going to look a lot like Dayron versus Sabatello. The pace that Meredith likes to keep, he's not like Sabatello, where like Sabatello could do that for entire 3 rounds, but he does keep a good pace for as long as he can, which is pretty much like close to the 3rd round. And he's just wrestling and wrestling and wrestling, and he's throwing some strikes that are kind of wild, but then he's wrestling again. He's trying to take you down. He's trying to control you, and that can wear on you. And from Dayron, what we saw was he was able to do very well against Sabatello in the first 2 rounds, and then let's say midway through the second and the 3rd round completely was all Sabatello was able to push the pace. I just think that Dayron also adds the that little bit of extra where maybe it's only early because that's when I saw it, but if he tags Meredith, he can put him out. He can hurt him because he is kind of heavy-handed, you know what I mean? Weight class, and he stung. He's in his previous fights. He's in his prior fights. He's actually like stung guys, and he can do that. He just needs to work on how to land it, when to land it. But if he hits him, takes him down, he could also finish that with a ground and pound, maybe a submission. But I think that Dayron could. The wrestling ability that he has, I think, can match Meredith. I just don't know if the pace is going to be there. So I'm going to take Dayron, but I could see Meredith pushing the pace as well and tiring Dayron. But I'm not going to talk myself out of it. I'm taking Lazaro in this one.
Yeah, I like to pick a Lazaro. I'm not going to lie. I was interested to see who you picked on this one. And yeah, I'm going with Lazaro too. When you talk about the two of these guys, obviously very, very high-level credentialed wrestlers. You know, you've got Meredith here, 2-time NCAA Division I finalist. He basically admitted he's coming second twice. Still made it to the final, but, 3-time All-American wrestler, trains out of MMA Lab. And obviously when you talk about Lazar, part of the Cuban national wrestling team, fought at a very, very high level. And when he went against Danny Sabatello, like Carlos said in his previous fight, he was able to get takedowns. He was able to implement some of his wrestling there. So to me, this one comes down to the striking. And when you watch Meredith striking, it's not great. I'm not really a big fan of the striking. He leaves his chin up in the air at times as well. He will have the height advantage here, but the reach is pretty similar. And when you look at Lazard, like Carlos said, Lazaro has some pop in his hands. He dropped Sabatello pretty badly in their fight. He has in previous fights, that you see on tape, that he's been able to mop and drop people. And when you look at the two, he's a little bit cleaner. He sets up his shots a little bit, a little bit more comfortably than Meredith. And I think if Meredith can't actually get the takedowns after he gets tagged, I think that Dayron might be able to put his lights out, get on top, and land some nasty ground and pound here. And to me, we see it time and time again with MMA. When 2 high-level wrestlers or 2 high-level grapplers get together, sometimes it ends up being a back-and-forth striking affair. And I trust Lazaro Dayron striking a little bit more than I do Bryce Meredith. And Meredith's not fought in a little while as well. I don't remember the exact amount of time that he's had off, but he hasn't necessarily been all that active. But somebody's O has got to go here, and I'm going to say that Meredith's O is going to go. Give me Lazaro Dayron here to get it done with the striking. And next up, we have Ethan Goss taking on Alexei Pergande, and I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to take Alexei Pergande in this. I'm going with Alexei because he's pretty much a good prospect. He's got solid wrestling, good grappling, good ability to scramble on the ground. He looks loose on the feet. He's light. He's quick. He can strike in combination. Everything that poses problems standing up, and everything with the scrambling, of course, everything that poses problems on the ground. So I ended up taking him. Now, Ethan Goss didn't get a chance to look at a lot of his fights. Some of the fights were from at least 7, I think maybe 6 years ago, something like that. And when I saw that fight, I'm like, okay, physically he doesn't have anything that poses a threat to Pergande. He's not fast. He's not explosive. He's not very strong looking, at least in his fights. He's able to, you know, control some people here and there, I guess. But that, like I said, was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. That's like an amateur. But I also think that there's some unknowns to him. Like I don't know if he's a decent striker from what I saw. It doesn't look good for him, so it was easy to go with Gandhi.
Yeah, biggest favorite on the card, Pagani, and it's very easy to see why. When you look at Ethan Goss, I mean, the level of competition that he has fought, most of the guys that he's beating out of his 12 victories, don't, barely scraping 500 records. So obviously his level of victory isn't necessarily all that high. This just reminds me of what I say sometimes for these UFC cards with these lopsided matchups. Ethan Goss is pretty much, some guy they've got in off the street that's fighting for toenail clippings and a couple of bucks, does have a little bit more pro and amateur experience than Pergande, obviously with his 19 fight, pro career. That's pretty much the only positive I can give him. He does tend to leave his chin high up in the air. He will blast kicks from the outside. But when you talk about Pergande, the guy trains at Killcliff, which is obviously a very good gym, and I'm pretty high on this kid. He's very well-rounded, like Carlos said, got good grappling, good striking, looks very comfortable on the feet, very measured. He has good feints, good timing on his takedowns. The guy really does fight like a guy. I wrote this in my notes. He fights like a guy that's got more fights than 6 victories, six professional fights. He fights like a guy that's, maybe got like 15 or 20. He's very measured in there. He looks like he's done it before. I'm very high on this kid. I think that he's a decent talent, still obviously very young at 24 years old. And he's right up there with the Impa Kasanganay fight on this card. I think he smashes Goss. I think that he smashes him, gets the first or second round finish here. And I think that he takes those toenail clippings and a couple of bucks and he heads home. And next up, we have the co-main event for the PFL World Tournament. Here we have Sullivan Cauley taking on Antonio Carlos Jr. Who do we have in the co-main event, Carlos?
I didn't take him last out because I thought that the 40-year-old Phil Davis was going to just get rid of him, but I was surprised at his performance. So I'm going to go with Sullivan Cauley. Hard striking, good movement. He's pushing the pace. He can wrestle, keep the pressure on Phil Davis. Phil Davis should have been able to take him down easy with all the forward pressure that he was taking. And the kid was able to stuff some takedowns when Phil was ready to go for it. And Phil's got fantastic takedowns. I just don't know how Shoeface is going to get him down. And the fact that he's able to fight off takedowns from Phil Davis, he's able to outstrike him. I think same thing with MMA math. I do feel that Phil Davis is better on the feet than Shoeface, but Carlos Jr. gets to be a little bit more reckless on the feet because he wants to come at you and force you to have to like take him down. You know what I mean? Like he wants to turn you into a wrestler because he wants to get that fight to the mat. He wants to get the submission. So he can be reckless on the feet with his kicks and his punches. He doesn't have to be accurate. He could just come 100% throw power on everything. And I feel that's going to be a problem because I think what's coming back at him when he's off balance and he's throwing like that, I think Cauley's going to catch him. So I'm going with Sullivan Cauley. I think he can get it done.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought up that Phil Davis result as well. I wrote that in my notes here. I literally wrote, how the fuck did he beat Phil Davis as a plus 320 underdog? That shocked the hell out of me when I saw that. First time going to a decision as well for Cauley. He had all finishes up until that point, so obviously knows that he can make it to a judge's scorecard now. And when you talk about Antonio Carlos Jr., obviously the guy himself, very decorated grappler, loves to get to the ground, loves to be able to take your back, choke you out. On the feet, obviously not necessarily a place where he shines. Obviously very rudimental, fundamental striking, but you know what he wants to do. He wants to take you to the ground and find the submission. And to me, well, like Carlos said, when you look at Collier, he was able to defend those takedowns against Phil Davis, who's a very decorated wrestler out of Penn State. The guy's obviously very decorated in wrestling overall. overall. And when you look at a guy like Sullivan Collier, I'd look at it here and I see 8-1, but I'm seeing 29 years old now. I'm seeing a guy that's kind of coming into his own, coming into his prime. And I think he showed that in that previous fight against Phil Davis. I couldn't believe that result. If he can beat Phil Davis, man, I think he can beat Antonio Carlos Jr. Sprawl and brawl, keep this one on the feet. Obviously very known for the power in the hands. Obviously, most of his 8 victories do come inside the distance. I think it's 7 of them. I believe it's I think it's 1 by submission, 1 by decision, 6 by knockout, 1 by submission. Don't fact check me on that. I'm going from memory. But the guy has power in the hands. I think that he can find the chin here of Antonio Carlos Jr. and really do some damage on the feet and just keep this one in the boxing range. And I think that he'll have the athleticism advantage here. If Antonio Carlos Jr. can't get this fight to the ground, I think it's going to be one-way traffic, as I always say. Give me Sullivan Collier here in the co-main event to win the tournament. And next up, we have England's own Fabian Edwards taking on Dalton Rosta. And if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as Carlos tells you who he's got in the main event.
I am going to go with Fabian Edwards in this one. I'm going with Edwards because Rosta's going to have to take Edwards down and keep him off the cage. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem. And if he ends up just clinching him up against the cage, Rosta is going to do exactly what he did against Jeffries. He's going to hold him up against the cage, create just a little bit of separation, throw a couple of punches and bunches, which is going to look great to the judge, and then clinch back up again. I feel that little bit of separation is where Fabian can time it and he can be dangerous towards Rosta. So I also think that he's going to have a hard time keeping Fabian on the ground because his as they call it, the wall walk or cage walk, however you want to say it, he can do that very well. So he's going to have to get Fabian off the cage, keep him down, and control him. And I don't think he can do that. Also, once it gets onto the feet, if there's any separation between the two, Rosta's very explosive. He's very athletic. He's a strong, powerful guy. But so is Edwards, and he has technique. He has actual tactical skill involved with it, strategy. And I just feel that he's going to best him there. So I like Rosta. He's got a lot of upside. There's a lot of things he needs to learn. He's working with a great group of people over at American Top Team. I just think Fabian's going to get this done.
Yeah, I was very unsure. I was having kind of a debate with one of my friends today about whether Carlos was going to reference he don't let him bully your son or some sort of Leon Edwards quote from that fight when we break this one down. So I just won a couple of bucks there. That was good. But yeah, I'm going with Fabian Edwards here as well. 2 for Fabian Edwards. I think this is a Fabian Edwards performance that he's got all the skills to beat a guy like Dalton Rosta. With Rosta, he obviously likes to get into the clinch, like Carlos said, get you up against the fence, drag you to the ground, beat you up from top position. The striking is obviously something he needs to work on. And the guy is a physical specimen. If you see this guy, he's definitely, I'm not going to say juiced up because I don't think that it's necessary. He might just have, fantastic genetics, but the guy is a physical specimen. He's definitely a strong guy. I think he's going to need more than strength here and getting Fabian Edwards up against the fence. Over at Team Renegade, him and his brother do a fantastic job of getting fights, when he's up against the fence, they do a fantastic job of keeping fights on the feet, digging for underhooks, reversing positions. And that's pretty much what I've seen out of Fabian Edwards in many fights. Guys look to take him down. He does a great job of digging those underhooks, reversing positions. My only one critique on Fabian Edwards is sometimes he stays in those positions and ends up kind of staying in the clinch, where I'd like to see him get to space, use his fantastic kickboxing. He has great step-in elbows, which we saw against Impa Kasanganay. When he fought against him, he had that step-in elbow, which obviously really cut and, mopped and dropped Impa Kasanganay. And I think that the kickboxing and the striking here of Fabian Edwards out at space, I think that he's definitely the more accurate, more measured striker. Obviously, both guys can go a hard, 5 rounds if need be, so the cardio is not going to be an issue. If this fight plays out in the clinch, I think it favors Rosta. If it plays out at space, I think it's all Fabian Edwards. I'm going to say that he keeps this one out at space, fights off the clinch attack here of Rosta and gets it done. Fabian Edwards winning the tournament. And as always, I got to let you guys know here on the channel what is coming, what is going to be on this week. We've got the full card breakdown for UFC Fight Night. Walker taking on Zhang. That is an early fight card this week on Saturday. It's over in China, I do believe. full card breakdown. Carlos and I are going to do every single fight there on that card. And the dog of the week, my favorite betting underdog. Obviously, last week we hit with Lerone, the Miracle Murphy, full highlight reel tape there. We got another one coming for you this week to put some money in your wallets. And as always, Carlos, you got anything you want to say to the people before we wrap things up?
No, guys, if you like hearing Aaron glazing all Dalton Rosta's physique, don't forget to like and subscribe.
You know I got a fat shame, and I got to give credit where credit's due, people. He didn't mention anything about Alexander Romanov's titties, but you know who we are. But anyway, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.